Welcome to the DraftKings tight end analysis for the divisional round. I'm Jason Gilbo, JGilbo11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J. Clay. Taking a look at tight ends this week. We had a couple guys in here, obviously, that weren't involved last week, but a couple added names, but overall, nothing pretty.
No. And so I wonder if this is a trend we're going to see in the playoffs going forward in future years as well, where there weren't even a lot of targets for tight ends last week. Like there just wasn't anything. It was totally non-existent. And I mean, CJ Fedorowicz was used as a receiving down tight end earlier this year. Jared Cook, it's he's getting okay production. But even the Jimmy Grahams of the world, it just didn't seem like maybe they're just using tight ends more to block in the playoffs. I don't know if it's something that maybe last week was just a bad sample with just mediocre tight end options, but I don't know. Especially with Seattle, we know their offensive line is weak. So I think we do have to take that into account for Jimmy Graham a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we can get into some of these top options. So obviously Travis Kelce, 6,100. Is he kind of your clear-cut number one this week, even with the price considered, or are you looking to spend down?
So, you know how he went on that huge streak of 100-yard games? That was with Jeremy Maclin out. Obviously, I had that huge Denver game with Maclin back, but if you look at the other two, 4 catches for 49 yards in 2 other games with Maclin back to end the year. Certainly not a positive indicator. He's the closest thing we have to a lock, I guess, in terms of floor. So I do really like him, especially if they get down. They're going to have to use him. Alex Smith obviously loves to dump it off. He'll be open. So I do like him. He is the top cash option, and he's the top price-based option as well. I mean, I'd rather pay $6,100 for him than I'd rather pay any price for anyone else. I really just think it's that straightforward. But that's not to say Jimmy Graham is X'd out. I just think if you're being reasonable with yourself, you're saying, okay, Travis Kelce really the main option here.
Yeah, and I think, at this stage we're kind of putting him in a wide receiver pool where he's basically around guys like Randall Cobb, Tyreek Hill, DeAndre Hopkins in terms of a price. I kind of feel, really outside of Cobb, I kind of feel safer with Kelce over guys like Hopkins right now and Hill, who, even though Hill's found the end zone quite a bit, he's still a boomer bust play.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kelce's certainly the higher upside or higher upside and higher floor play of that team. So I think he's the top option there. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And Jimmy Graham, I was expecting more production last week and a good matchup against Detroit, uptick in targets. That didn't happen. Only saw 4.
Yeah, we saw the targets go to Paul Richardson, which is strange that Jimmy Graham wouldn't get targeted more, but that seems to be the way they're going. As far as this game, Atlanta's going to have things a little more opened up. Hopefully we see a Jimmy Graham touchdown or something. He's still a stacking option with Russell Wilson. It's just kind of annoying, how spread out his good games are. The game against Green Bay when he had 1 catch on 4 targets for 16 yards, and then, the Rams game, and he really hasn't had a good game in over a month. It's kind of frustrating. And this is a good matchup. He should be a cash game option. I just have no confidence in him at this point. The play is good itself, though. Worry about, even if they get down, they might still be holding him into block a little more.
Yeah, and I think, looking at last week, obviously Thomas Rawls had a good week, was heavily used. That might have kind of ticked away maybe a couple potential targets that could have went to Graham if it was, different in terms of game flow. This week may be a little bit more different where, I'm not expecting as much Rawls. I'm expecting Wilson to kind of have to be throwing the ball. And that would kind of mean, I think, maybe more targets for Graham. But still, it's not a lock at this point.
Yeah, and so then you kind of get down into the Martellus Bennett, Jared Cook, and this is kind of the jumping point for where I actually think truly guys you want to get exposure to are here. So I mean, you look at Martellus Bennett. The Patriots are going to be able to do whatever they want in this game. And I think that's kind of to the detriment of Martellus Bennett because he is one of their better options. But in this game, they're throwing to that guy Langle. They got, Michael Floyd now in the red zone. They just got the two receiving backs, like Garrett Blount. I mean, I know he hasn't practiced for a few days, but it just seems like they have so many options. It's tough to see the ceiling with him, especially on a 4-game slate. But if you're looking for a floor, I mean, 4K, I'm certainly fine with that. I think he can make some big plays.
Nailing New England's touchdown scores this week is going to be basically
Ugh,
the difference maker. I
it
think
is.
in between, a core of players that are going to be popular, you're going to see obviously Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, and then you're going to have to focus on Hogan, like
Is it going to be
Mitchell,
a Chris Hogan week?
Floyd. Like it just seems like there's going to be random scores for New England, as there always seems to be. And Bennett's certainly, one of the potential options.
Hey, and you know what? All the power to them. They've given themselves the flexibility to literally go any different way at this point in the season, and that's all you really want. That's what you want. So love that. Jared Cook, you know, even with Jordy out, I'm not all that confident in Cook in terms of like ceiling here. It seems like, even in his bigger target games, they're giving him a lot of targets, but they're not necessarily putting him in the best positions. He kind of gets those low percentage, like deep shots where like the safety's on him and they single him out, but they're kind of like tough throws and Rodgers is under pressure. Or they give him like those little dump offs where, yeah, he can break a tackle, but it's not going for more than 10 yards. So he's kind of in a weird position right now where he's either got really low percentage, like big plays that don't normally happen for tight ends, or he's in like these, uh, almost screen type scenarios. So I don't mind him. I just think Jordy being out, I don't know if that's going to boost his like opportunity as much as we want it to. I think we look at Cobb and Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams really the guy I think is going to see the big, bump on those deep targets. And, those games when Rodgers just targets Jordy on those back shoulder throws, I think that's going to be Devontae Adams now. And Cobb is going to help out and take more of those slot, run towards the middle plays that Adams does. So I don't know. That's how I see it. I still like Cook as a tournament guy, but 39, like I loved it a lot more when he was 3K, that was a lot more comforting to me.
Yeah, I agree. The price obviously 3,900. I mean, it is what it is on a 4-game slate, and we can kind of start dropping down here. I mean, Jason Witten's there at 3,500. CJ Fedorowicz. I mean, if you see anyone else, you can let me know. But I think those are probably the only two remaining names that we'd even toss out to talk about.
You know who could be really annoying this week? And annoying, I mean, like, don't play him, but he could, like, score a 50-yard touchdown is like Austin Hooper. I could just see him being, like, the third best tight end on this slate because he caught one catch and, like, got tipped off a linebacker. And, like, that's been all his plays this year. I wouldn't be surprised if something goofy like that happened. But uh, Witten is hard to trust, man. I don't know. Even in that 10 catch game, he had 10 catches for 51 yards. You know how hard that is to do? 51 yards? Catch all 10 of your targets and you get 51 yards? I don't know. I don't know what the upside is for him at this point. He only got over 10 points 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times this year out of 16. And he had an every week role. And there were a lot of weeks where he had like under 5 targets. And maybe they go to their vets in this type of game, but I don't know. it seems like Cole Beasley's really roasted all of his upside. I'd rather just go Beasley instead.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. I mean, it's more I'll move off to like a secondary wide receiver rather than I use Jason Witten.
Yeah. And with CJ Fedorowicz, I think we can safely say, his production, and again, the positions they put him in as a receiver aren't necessarily what you want for fantasy relevance. He does get those 7 targets a week, but they're not great. Ryan Griffin kind of emerging when he got hurt has crushed his upside as a receiving tight end. So, I mean, you can play those guys, but I don't want to,
It
especially if you're
just
not playing a ton of lineups. I just probably wouldn't.
it just seems like there's enough like 400, 500. If you're spending low, it's Bennett and Cook.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
So, putting those two in and also Graham and Kelsey, where do you kind of rank them in terms of 1 through 4 there?
Oh, I'd go Kelsey, Bennett, Graham, Cook in terms of that order. I will also say, Ladarius Green probably going to be out with that concussion this week. If you want to take a look at Jesse James, I mean, I know he was a big disappointment last week, hasn't really gotten that many catches. Still a guy that can catch those red zone touchdowns. And on a week like this, I mean, if he gets you 10 points, you might be okay with that at 2,800.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, I mean, if you want to check out Russ's article or, you know, review his hot takes on basically 1 through 4 on another weekend tight end week,
Yeef.
you can head on over to dayfantasycafe.com and check that out. And be sure to check out the rest of our divisional round content as well.